What's up, guys? Josh from Strength Side here, and I got a question about butt wink. Got a question of, hey, I'm getting a lot of lower back pain after I squat, and I've noticed that I'm butt winking a lot. So I'm figuring that that's the problem. And yes, you may be right. That probably is the problem. Now, butt wink is a little controversial. A little slight butt wink at deep squat positions is probably more than likely going to happen for a lot of us. But if you are getting butt wink when you are, not even to parallel or right at parallel, then that's probably a bad thing. So let's talk about the concept of what's going on here. So let's pretend that this is the hip socket right here, okay, connected to the pelvis. So a lot of people, when they squat, we initiate it with sticking the butt back. This makes us arch our lower back a lot, and it makes this pelvis tilt forward, basically. Okay, so this is my femur going into my pelvis, into my hip socket here. Okay, so when we tilt forward here and we get into a deep squat position, we run out of room here, right? So what's going to happen is either I can't go deeper or something has to happen to let me go deeper, right? And that's what butt wink is. Your pelvis posterior tilts, it rounds underneath you, and now we can reach that full hip flexion or that full deep squat, but we come at a compromised position, right? So that's what's going on in butt wink, okay? And it's like, okay, that's great. Glad I know that now, but how do we fix it? So what's causing butt wink? Is it a mobility issue? Is it a strength issue? And in my opinion, it could be all those things. So I'm going to tell you my thoughts on how we fix butt wink. So basically, if we look at it from a logical standpoint, what anchors the pelvis, right? So like when we brace, we want to pull that rib cage down, we want to get the abs tight, but more importantly, we want to squeeze our butt and turn on our glutes as hard as we can, right? So essentially, the glutes brace the pelvis, right? The glutes are what set that pelvis into a good, strong, neutral position. So what's happening when we're coming down and and we get this pelvis tipping forward, and we get this part right here, is that we've lost control of our pelvis, right? We can't control it, and that is because we can't control our glutes in that situation, right? We can't contract them to keep them in that neutral position. Okay, now the glutes are going to anchor it into a neutral position. So a good way to test this is get into a full squat position and see, can you contract your glutes in that full squat position? And what we find is a lot of people can't, right? So basically, you turn on your glutes as hard as you can, you start to squat, somewhere midway through the squat, you lose that contraction and that, that mind muscle connection with your glutes. Glutes turn off a little bit in the bottom, we come back up, and then we find them again as we're on the ascent coming up, right? So we have to get those glutes contracted in that bottom position. How can we go about doing that? Well, there's multiple things that could be happening that are stopping you from being able to control your glutes in the bottom position. One of them can be mobility, right? If your hip flexors and quads are tight, then that is not going to allow you to get full hip extension and allow you to externally rotate at the hips, which is what turns on your glutes, right? So in that case, it's a mobility issue, right? Now another one is that you just don't have the mind muscle connection with your glutes, okay? So in this case, we need to work on maybe doing some glute isolation work, like some glute bridges, some glute kickbacks, things like that. And another thing that I love, that I recommend to everybody, is just to do pause squats, and when you're paused in the bottom, trying to contract your glutes as hard as you can. So the big question is, can you flex your glutes, contract your glutes in this bottom position right here, right? Now right now, I'm pulsing them. I'm contracting and relaxing, contracting and relaxing. Now, before I could do this, I would butt wink a ton, right? And that's because I had no control over my glutes in this position. And it makes sense, right? We're used to standing up. It's easy to squeeze our glutes when we stand up. The glutes are at an advantageous position when we're about 90 degrees, so it's easy to squeeze them right here. But once we get down to this full flexion, we don't spend much time down here, right? So it's hard to have that motor control in your brain to be able to, boom, contract, relax, right? It just makes sense. So what you need to do is you need to spend time down here and get used to trying to turn those glutes on in the bottom position. All right, guys, so those are my thoughts on butt wink. I hope that helped out a little bit. It all comes down to the glutes, guys. If you can control your glutes throughout the whole squat, then you're not gonna butt wink, okay? When you lose that contraction, that's when your pelvis gets loose and it's gonna do whatever it needs to do to maintain the positions that you're trying to put it in. Hope that helps. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.